Hey, Brian, this is Sheila. Do you want us to also try to log into the live stream? Because right now I'm just logged in via Zoom. Do you want me to try to follow the instructions for live stream through Kelis 106 as well?
No, I would not because that will really cause you some difficulties. Like when you have this live streaming going on, especially with Zoom, it creates feedbacking loops, and it gets really weird really fast because not only do you have audio feedback but you have video feedback, so you have
Okay.
this perpetual loop of video going out to infinity, and it gets really wonky really fast. So yeah, like now that we can just Zoom, this is like, not that you can't use it to do the other, but like it's kind of mutually exclusive. You can go one way or you can go the other.
Okay. So we may have to come up with another. Okay, whatever. I'll think through my issue because if I can't do it, then that means a student at home has to pick, right?
Yes, they would have to pick either they want to be part of the Zoom,
Yep.
in which case they'll get the same content. It doesn't matter either way.
Okay.
Um, like for instance, right now you can see me, you can see the chalkboard, and you can see kind of the bottom half of the screen. But what
Yep.
I'm going to do is, like, once I start, it won't be a function of you seeing the bottom half of the screen. I'm going to swap,
Okay.
and then you're seeing my desktop now.
Gotcha. So just like we were doing last semester.
Kind of, except now you have the benefit of, being able to say, hey, I need to make some notes. Let me go over here. I can write
Yeah.
my notes on the board. These are the things I need you to know, da 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 da. And then you can come back and like change slides or do what you do.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
Cool. This is exciting for me.
Hey Brian, say something.
Test, test.
Okay, so whoever is active in chat, their window is dominated. So for instance, if Sheila says something, her window pops up on my screen.
That might not be a bad thing.
No, but if she stays dominant, then it doesn't go away.
Okay. Slideshow. Play from start. All right, so I'm just going to leave that up for now. I'm going to Yep. Good morning, everyone on the Zoom. Can everyone hear me all right? Get a wave or something? Thanks, Sheila. All right. So, I'm just going to swap back to my PowerPoint here and carry on.
Swap your screen.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning. My name is Brian. I don't know, I know some of you not so well. This presentation is just to help you all use the new streaming technology that we've incorporated into a bunch of classrooms. I invited you, obviously, because you teach in one of those classrooms. Big technology development this morning is that, like, we found a way to make these Zoom compatible, and it is my hope that we will be able to roll that out to all of these streaming rooms before you guys start instructing face-to-face on the 15th. Caveat to that being that if you instruct in these rooms and you intend to use Zoom, you will have to use the built-in machine in the podium. I know that's not ideal for some people, but if you get your documents or whatever it is you're using, if you can get them to OneDrive so that you can open either the Mac or Windows OS on the built-in computer and then open them up in the classroom, I think that'll help you. So, in the process of doing this, we had to create new touch panels. They're huge. We went, initially, most of you know, we started out with like little 3-inch touch panels to control the systems with. Then we kind of migrated to 7-inch. And now, because we needed so much more real estate on the screen for what we're doing for the streaming, we have migrated to 10-inch touch panels. So in doing that, we had to create a new graphic user interface, and it looks a little like this. It's kind of mostly like what you're used to. It won't be all that different in the, if you're just doing the main kind of controls that you would in a basic instructional room. But once we get into the streaming stuff, you'll see why it's different, and there are some steps that you have to take, and you kind of have to take them in the appropriate order. So when you go into a room, this is your new start button, and it should display the correct room name here whenever you walk in the room. If it doesn't, then there's something wrong with the system. You can get a hold of us either through the IT service desk by dialing 4444, or we have a direct queue for the AV team now, which is av@track.potsdam.edu. So anytime you have audio-visual problems, if you want to get something to us fast, that's probably your quickest bet, because our team gets emails every time a ticket falls into that queue. We all are out and about trying to help you from the field, so when we get those tickets, we see them, on our mobile devices, and then we can respond to you quicker that way. Otherwise, it has to get filtered through all the other tickets that happen at the IT service desk. Yeah, Linda.
Can you just repeat that, please? AV@track.
Here, I'll write it up. So it is av@track.potsdam.edu.
Thank you.
So,
You went to sleep.
well, that was disappointing. All right, so once you press the start button, it's the same kind of setup. You all are used to this. It tells you to wait because there's no controls available. It is allowing the projector and all the other equipment time to get ready for what you need it to do. Okay, once we get to the main page, there's one small difference here. The streaming controls button is new. Everything else pretty much functions the same way as it always did. Inputs on the top, power and video mute over here. There's a help button, volume, microphone volume, but the streaming controls will be the new difference. We'll get to that quickly. Okay, the space in the center is a pop-up panel. This design is designed to give you all some information from the system, telling you to do something, asking you to respond to something. If there's controls, they'll pop up there depending on what you've selected. So, classrooms have 5 inputs: laptop, Mac Mini, Blu-ray DVD, DocCam, and VGA. Just so you all are aware, I'm trying to disseminate this slowly. Future generations of Podia, the VGA connections will be going away. It's dead technology. We have to get rid of it at some point, because with the streamers and everything else that we're doing now, it's just not going to be compatible in the future. It just will, it's going to cause more problems than the benefit. They all turn yellow when you have the right one selected, and they should all give you some kind of input as to what you've done. The only one that's really unique is the DVD controls. These changed a small amount. We put a power button here, and there's some labels that kind of give you a little better idea of what's going on. It's broken into 2 half panes. The left half of the pane is disc navigation, which is just the basic controls for the DVD. I don't know how many of you use DVDs in your lectures, but some people do. Basic disc navigation: play, pause, stop, fast forward, rewind, and then you have chapter previous and chapter next if you have one of those DVDs where you want to jump from topic to topic. Right half of the pane. This is player navigation. There are 5 keys here that are pretty universal: up, down, left, right, and enter. They kind of work with the player to navigate menus. The disk menu and return keys may not function the same from operation to operation. They are dependent on the disk. Dependent on how the disk is coded, you will get different feedback from them. So if you're expecting disk menu to do one thing and it doesn't, I may not be able to control that. Every DVD manufacturer, publisher, they do different things with these commands, and the players just don't necessarily know how to process that. So we do our best that we can with what we have for available controls. Okay, any of the other 4 inputs, they all tell you that no further controls are available. If you're using these desktop document cams as a webcam for Zoom, I mean, in these rooms it's kind of pointless now if once we get this technology deployed, but if you are doing that, you have to go to the DocCam button first. That way you can see, and I'll just throw it up here for a second. When you do this, then you actually have access to the menus. When we go to menu, thank you. So what you want to do in order to make it webcam is this image rotation menu needs to be set for 180 degrees. If I set it to normal, it flips it. That's so that you can use it this way. But once I go now, it's reversed, and we're back to that. So you can use these as a webcam. They're not the greatest, but they do work. And now that we have Zoom set up, at least in this classroom, we'll have it set up. I'm hoping again to get the other ones online by the time you guys teach face-to-face in the spring. Okay, so. Audio controls. Audio controls over here. We put some universal characters on these to make it a little more compliant. You know, it's a speaker with an arrow up, speaker with an arrow down for volume up, down, and a microphone with an arrow up, microphone, arrow down, and then speaker and microphone with slashes through them for mute. Microphone mute is kind of a tricky thing because it mutes the microphone to the live stream. So just be aware of that as you proceed through your classes, because if you mute the microphone and then you continue to instruct, your face-to-face people will hear you, but everybody that's downstream will be lost. So, okay.
Brian, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is Sheila. Can I ask you a quick question about microphones because you're talking about that?
Sure.
I'm noticing that as you're moving away from the podium, I can't hear you as much.
That is
So-
true. And I promised myself I would be better at that today, and I know that that's a difficulty. So let me address the microphones while we're at this juncture. When we started designing this project, we went out to SUNY with a monumental ask in terms of monetary ask for the equipment that we thought we needed to make this happen. And they came back to us and said, well, we'll give you about 10% of that. So we had to make some significant adjustments, and we've kind of thrown this thing together on a shoestring. So one of the things that had to go was microphones. Ideally, we wanted to be able to do like wireless pendant microphones that are like on a lanyard that you can throw over your head and walk around, and it makes things a whole lot nicer. They're about $1,800 a unit. These microphones all in are about 60 bucks. So, you know, that's a monumental cost savings. And there's some other things that we had to do. So some of the things that are inconvenient, I apologize for. It's not that I didn't want you to have them. It's that I just could not afford them in the project. We had to find a means around it in order to get you the other things. For instance,
Okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So if we have like I bought a USB mic last semester,
Yes.
can we still use it with this system that you have?
So I remember your mic from last semester, Sheila. I think it was a USB wireless, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you plug that into the USB on the front panel of the Mac Mini, and I'll like show you guys a slide later on of the front panel of all the nuts and bolts of what's going on here so that you know where things are, because it's going to be important. If you plug into the Mac Mini with that, it should still work. So the only caveat being, well, hold on, let me think about that for a second.
Brian, I don't want to hog all the time. I'll shut up.
I'll-
These are questions that appear to me, and
Let me, Ricky, will you make a note of that, and we'll explore that, because I think there's going to be a caveat with how it records the stream.
Yep.
All right, we'll come back to you with a direct answer on that, Sheila. Yeah, Bob.
What if you have your own Bluetooth headset?
Same thing. Like, you'd have to link it somehow to the Podia, and the only way that you have to link that is via the Mac. So that kind of precludes it from getting to the streamer, which is what is feeding the audio to the Zoom call. So I think that those things they'll cause you difficulty, I think. So can we put Bob Uwe on that list too, please? I'll find that out and I'll answer your questions on that. It's just not something we tested out, so I don't want to give you a flip answer before I really try it. So, video controls. Video mute, same place as it's always been. Mutes the video. We did not have it mute the video on the stream. And here's why. So if we mute the video, well, if you're teaching in the classroom and you're teaching face-to-face, you don't have any means of blocking yourself out from the face-to-face people. So we also don't want you to be able to block your other students out. It's kind of like a equal opportunity sort of thing. Like I don't want the students subjected to not being able to see their instructor. They all want to see your wonderful faces. Help button. The help button displays a pop-up on how to get instructions. Looks like this. So if at any point you're having difficulties in the room, there's a help button on the touch panel. It's always visible. Hit that and it will give you the reminder on how to get to that email address I gave you or the number for the IT service desk. And I think almost every one of these podia have a phone on them. We'll be double checking that, hopefully again before the spring classes begin face-to-face, to make sure that there's a phone there so that if you have a difficulty, you can call the service desk and either somebody can talk you through it or they can get a ticket into our queue and we can talk you through it. While I'm on that subject, if you all are having technical difficulties in the classroom and you submit a ticket and we get it, is it a problem for any of you if we show up, come into the classroom and try and get you straightened out at that time?
No.
Because that has kind of something that, it's something that has been relayed to us that was traditionally taboo, and I kind of feel like it would be better if you guys had the technology available to you to get it to your students and get through that class sooner rather than later. So we'll come in, pardon the interruption, and then we'll probably attack the problem and see if we can't get you back on track. All right, that's good information, thank you. All right, the bottom bar now only shows the date and time, and the date and time is a function of network time. So if this date and time is wrong, please open a ticket and let us know if you happen to notice it. It's super important to you in one small regard. All the systems have a schedule, they shut down automatically. It doesn't happen until 10:15 at night, but if there's a problem with AM or PM and you're teaching a 10 o'clock class, things can go sideways pretty quickly for you. So if you happen to see it and it's off, let us know. There's probably something that we've missed or that we need to adjust, and we can get that done. Okay, back to the podia. So 4 major components in the podia. There are the Mac Mini, the Blu-ray DVD player, the streaming media processor, and then the controller switcher scaler. So Mac Mini is located in this tiny shelf. It's usually near the top of the rack. They are not all 100% consistent. Sometimes we have to shuffle things around in the rack to make things fit. So when you get to the Mac Mini, the controls for that Mac Mini are inside that green circle. There are 3 things going on there. 1, there is the power button, which is pretty important. 2, there's a USB drive if you have portable media that you brought with you, like a flash drive that you need to pull files from for your class. And then 3 is the power indicator lights. And I know that doesn't seem all that important, but if the Mac is not powered on, obviously you can't present from it, creates some difficulty. While I'm on this slide, one thing that we encounter a lot is we'll get a ticket that says, I can't get the Mac Mini to work, but everything else is working on the podia. This is a problem if we have a power outage to that podia. When things reboot, the Mac Mini doesn't always come up as quickly. The Mac Mini comes up more quickly than the scaler. If the Mac Mini comes up ahead of the scaler doesn't get the information it needs to be able to present the Mac Mini. So all you gotta do, press and hold that button for about 10-15 seconds. The Mac Mini will reboot, you'll get the Apple bong, and it will restart, and then it should show up. You'll see input 4 no signal anytime you encounter this problem. Just press and hold the button, it'll reboot, and then your image should show. If not, again, reach out to us, please. We want to help you. Oh, sorry. Back to this. In that Mac Mini shelf, there's 2 sets of all those things that I just talked about. One on the right and one in the center. The one on the right is the only one that's ever in play. That's universal. The stuff in the center is for a secondary machine. We do not have secondary machines in any of these racks. So don't be alarmed by that second set. Just ignore them. They don't mean anything. DVD player, pretty straightforward. It's there. There's only 2 buttons that work on it. We've locked all the rest out. The only button that works is power and the tray eject button. So everything else you have a control for from that slide previously for the DVD player. Controller, switcher, scaler, same thing. You guys have never touched these. You don't need to touch them. All the controls you need for it are on the touch panel. It's just there. I like to let you all see what's going on there, just so you have an idea of how to locate things in this piece of equipment, because the real important one is this unit. This is the new component. This is a streaming media processor tied to the network, gets your stream out. It also has a USB drive on the front. This is super important. When you start instructing classes in these rooms, these streaming media processors, whenever you start the stream, it starts recording. They're inherently tied together, the 2 functions. So what we would like you to do is have a USB drive that you can plug into the front in that USB port, and then when you come to the room, that should be your first step. Plug that in if you're going to stream. The drive, we're going to recommend that you have something like at least 16 to 32 gigabit in size, and that it be empty of all other content. The reason we say 16 to 32 gig is because if you're anything like me, you're probably busy and you won't necessarily have time to go between classes and get your content off before you get into the classroom, and if you run out of space, it just won't make the recording. So I want you to make sure that you have your content. So please get something big enough that allows you enough time to get your content transferred off that thumb drive and have it empty before you go to the next class, or before you run out of space. Okay, now, streaming. So when you've gone and you pressed the streaming control button, in most cases, this is the first thing you're going to see. What that is it's telling you that the DVD player is active. Pursuant to U.S. copyright law, you cannot stream a DVD. It just can't be done. There's some coding on there, it stops it, and this also stops it. If the system recognizes a video input from the DVD player at the time you switch to streaming controls, it's going to play this page for you, and it will not let you proceed until you click a button. 2 buttons here, continue to streaming controls page, or return to the main controls page, which is the local only that you've all been used to for so long. So in this instance, we're going to press continue to streaming controls, and boom, streaming controls come up. You notice that the button for the DVD player is gone. It will not let you back there to try and turn it on. We've really tried to protect the college here by not making it anyhow available to you to stream that DVD. If you have content that you need to stream to your students, It's going to have to be somehow downloaded to a machine and streamed that way. It cannot come from a DVD. Maybe reach out to the CCI for help with that, but we had to try and follow the letter of the law to the copyright law. Okay, so 4 input sources at the top. When we're dealing with the streamer has 2 channels. You all saw that it was dual live streaming. So you have a channel A and a channel B. The input sources at the top go to channel A. Channel B is always your camera. Once it's on, we'll get to some slides here later that show you, they swap back and forth, so beware. Pop-up page contains 37 buttons. 32 are recording profiles. And hey, Sheila, your name actually happens to be on this one. Must be you're teaching in this room. 32 buttons, that's the maximum number of recording profiles I can put in the machine. And this is step 2. When you've come in, you've already put in your thumb drive when you first got to the class, you got to the streaming controls. When you get to here, find your CCA and press it. That is going to create a file structure name that is going to tag your file with your user account. That way, in the event that your file is lost and we have to go back and dig for a file, we can find it. However, keep in mind, we can only go back 2-3 days at the max. So if you have a problem and your file didn't make for whatever reason, get to us sooner rather than later. But please remember your thumb drive, because I don't want to turn into the file police. So once you're in the streaming page, there's one more button that's kind of important, which is the return to main controls. In order to return to the main controls, you have to stop the stream. We'll get to that in a minute. New thing, all these podiums now have 2 monitors. One of them is your presentation monitor, which is the monitor you've always had. The other one is a confidence monitor. Confidence monitor displays exactly what your students are witnessing on the other end of the stream when they're remote. We've tried very hard to make sure in every classroom where we installed it that it is on an angle to the instructional surface, so that if you go over to the board, I'm going to remember to take the mic with me this time. If you go over to the board to write and you look back, you can see that, oh, my board is not up on the stream. I can go back and swap it. So, swap function. Let's get to that. Sorry. All right. Record. Sorry. Record is where we're going to start our stream from. Again, universal characters, little round red dot. Pause. Only pauses the recording, does not pause the stream. Stop stops the stream. Mark and swap at the top. Mark is for you. I don't know if this is a great feature or not, but we put it on anyway. This allows you to mark chapters in the recording. So it just puts a mark in your recording that identifies it as a different chapter. I don't know if that's really important to y'all. Swap, however, is important. And for those who are joining us remotely, when I do a swap, you can see that now the main view is the board view. And let me see if I can just, yeah, I really don't want to do that with the people on Zoom because it's going to create an infinite video feedback loop. So I guess I'm going to avoid that. I was able to do it yesterday. The technology changed. Hey, imagine that. the stream has to be stopped before you can return to the main controls. That's what we were just talking about. Just press stop, then you can hit the main controls. Or if you don't want to go all the way back, you know, if you're doing this face-to-face / remote thing, if you just want to shut the podium down, that's fine too. Press the power button and you're out. It will restart back to the normal way. So that should be the end of that for you. Yeah, this is the pop-up you'll get if you do try to switch back to the main controls without stopping the stream first. Just tells you, hey, the stream is still active. Let's shut it down. Okay. Here's the slide that changed since yesterday. Streaming is not for use for Zoom or Teams video calling. Again,
Brian, swap again, we're still on.
thank you. I get that is probably going to be a hard thing for you all to swap. Dual streams, I guess, you know, does the benefit outweigh the pain? I hope so. Teams chat will also work as a way. Now that we have this Zoom thing, I'm really super excited about that. I think it's going to like close probably about 95% of the gap that all of you faced with face-to-face and remote when students are out because they're isolating, whatever. Other things about the podia, all the cables that are on the top of the podia are labeled. The ancillary inputs, that is, VGA labeled VGA, laptop labeled laptop. Again, if you don't care about the Zoom and you're just going to live stream and allow people to set in as a lecture, you can do that too. So let me put that website up on the board. And swap again. So if you're just going to lecture and live stream, you can go to sites.potsdam.edu/live. When you go there, there's a menu, and let me see if I can get to that quickly. There we go. Okay. Come on. Oh, whatever. That's not my department.
Not my job.
Okay, sites.potsdam.edu/live. These are all the buildings that have the streaming media. You click on a building, takes you to the room. You can click on the room, and this is probably what your students will see. Stream will start playing when it is automatically when it is live. Ignore that. They need to click. They need to click play. Once they do click play, they'll also want to unmute the audio, and I'm sure they'll figure out how to blow the screen up. There's some pop-outs that happen and some other stuff. I'm not sure why we can't seem to get this stream will start automatically thing off the screen. We'll work on it, but if you guys are using Zoom, it's kind of moot because you're either going to use one or the other. Again, they're a mutually exclusive thing. If you try to use them both, it will create monumental problems. So, I think that is pretty much everything we need to cover. Is there anybody that has questions? I hope so. Yeah, Linda.
I do, but if someone has a question specific about this material, maybe they should go first.
How about anybody that's in the Zoom? Alex?
I did not hear the question, and that was the comment I was going to make, that the in-class situation is that you only have one microphone there at the front of the class. Not only as the instructor, do you need to make sure that you are in range of that microphone in order for the online students to hear you, but if questions are asked within the classroom,
They need to be
there's no
repeated.
way for me to hear for a online Zoom person, streaming person, to hear what was said, and that is one of the biggest challenges as you're teaching in the classroom.
That is true, and there is not a convenient way to mic the room entirely. It creates problems with feedback. I mean, you can do things with digital signal processors to try to correct for that, but things get really expensive fast, and that is kind of one of the things.
We looked into that. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah, we tried to think about these things. It does get expensive fast. So, Alex, in response to your question, Linda's question, she has one, but it is not necessarily pertaining to what we're talking about right now. Sarah, looks like you've got your hand up.
Yeah, my question is, and Sheila and I were sort of chatting in the chat box, but she had to leave for another meeting.
Sure.
Because we are not going to be actually using this technology for another couple of weeks, will this recording be available for us to review? And then Sheila had actually suggested in the chat that would it be possible to have like little mini laminated binders of these slides so that we have a quick go-to resource guide before we call you all to come into our room?
Okay, so these are things that I kind of worked briefly with Alex before we scheduled this training, but this was done in extreme haste. Like, we literally just finished the installation of these rooms last week, and so we didn't know how far we'd be along to be able to, whether we could roll them out for the beginning of the semester or not. We made it, and we had just enough time to squeeze in a couple trainings. Alex and I talked, we decided that this would be like the best format, but yes, videos. So there's a recording of today's session, and there'll be a recording of tomorrow's session. I'm gonna look at all of them and decide which one kind of is like most pertinent to everyone, and probably will post that somewhere. Also, Alex was looking to get it up on the Tech Tools and on the CCI website. We're going to share the PDF with you here at some point, so you'll have all this information so that you can move forward, and you'll have something that you can refer back to be able to use the technology.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. Other questions? Yeah?
So I'm a little unclear on, you said we needed a thumb drive.
Yes. Okay, so Bob is asking that he was unclear about the thumb drive. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So last semester when I did Zoom,
Yes.
I went to my Zoom, I hit record, it went to my Zoom account, I could
Yes.
upload it on my machine, I could edit it, I could do all that stuff.
Yes.
It's now going to be on that thumb drive?
It can, yes, it'll be on the thumb drive. If we get all these devices deployed and we can make all these rooms Zoomable by the time classes start, that Zoom recording will also still be available to you. Okay? Just, they're both there.
So as a backup plan,
Yes.
because I'm not the most tech savvy and I have been burned by technology numerous times.
Understood? Me too.
As a backup plan, can I bring my 5-year-old Mac in and hook it into the system and run Zoom that way?
No.
I have a headset.
No, you cannot.
So it,
Not if you're streaming.
Oh, sorry. Let me take that back. There's no reason that you cannot bring your equipment and teach the way you taught last semester. You cannot use any of these controls. You know, there's nothing preventing you from doing that.
project from my computer through the system.
Yes, but when you do that, if you try to stream it as well as use your computer, you probably will not have audio.
What if I'm trying to stream through my computer?
If you're just sending it to Zoom through your computer, that will work.
But you won't get any video from that camera.
From that one.
Right, right. You'll only have what you had
Right.
previously. You're going to take a step back to last semester with what you had available for technology.
Backup though, at least I get.
Absolutely. As a backup to the backup, absolutely. Yes.
I guess I can ask my question, it seems like it fits a little bit. My method of recording is I log into Nomia, and, use that software and, last semester in Flag, I had to set up a webcam and I had to enable all the pieces, I had to call administration to enable audio and, there were a lot of setup pieces. And then I would record it, upload it, edit it, and then post it on Moodle, which is what I wanna do with it.
Okay.
So, for cameras, for audio, how are we looking for just, like, I'm gonna go online and sign into Nomia, and then, what camera is activated, what, audio do we have to deal with? Do we know yet?
Okay, so Linda's question is, because what she does is she uses Nomia to capture all of her lectures and post them later to Moodle. Nomia is a bit of a trick, and Alex, I don't know if you want to chime in on this. Here's the thing: is I don't know. I don't know at this point what the future status of Nomia will be.
Okay,
So my recommendation would be do this anyway,
okay.
because you're going to have another recording, maybe from a different perspective, of your lecture. I would take it back, I would get it on OneDrive or get it backed up somewhere like that. In addition to what you have in Nomia for now. I don't know what the future of Nomia will be, and I'll kind of leave it at that. Alex, if you want to speak to that, please do.
Or Alex?
Yeah. So I think I understand the question. I didn't hear it again, and so again, that's going to be the biggest issue here. And I can have some recommendations on how we might deal with that issue if you're having if you're fielding a lot of questions in the classroom, so that people can see them more easily. But anyway, regarding Nomia, yes, Nomia is the big question mark, whether or not it's going to stick around past this summer. And I don't know the answer to that, but before the middle of the semester, it's my hope and intention that if we're not going to continue to keep Nomia, that we're going to have clear instruction on what we are going to be using and how to use that, whatever that happens to be. Regarding using Nomia, I haven't tested it with those Podium system yet. However, my experience with Nomia is that if you select the turn off the webcam setting in Nomia, and you go in and start a recording and don't use the select the no camera option in the settings for Nomia, it will record whatever is on the screen regardless of whatever else is going on in the system. So I haven't tested it there with the Podium system there, but my guess would be that would be true. That said, if your classroom is set up, if your session is set up as a Zoom meeting, and you're recording that Zoom meeting, that Zoom recording will go to Zoom, but then will also be transferred directly to your Nomia account anyway. So if you're using Zoom, there's no need necessarily to record also with Nomia. Besides the fact that now with this system, you can also record directly to that USB drive. So you would have that copy of the USB drive, the copy that's on the system itself, the streaming system itself, and then the copy if you're using Zoom as well. So that's multiple copies there of the session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that does answer the question appropriately, Alex. Thank you. So one more cool thing. Again, there'll be some better instructions on how to use this technology with the Zoom adaptation that we discovered this morning. I'll get those out to everyone as soon as it becomes available. But one thing that we did find with Zoom that we thought was really cool, and I'm going to invite Ricky to participate with this, is I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here for just a moment and play from the current slide. One thing that we found we could do is for remote students is we can allow them to participate and annotate. So this we thought was kind of a huge sell as well. So Ricky, whenever you're ready. Take it away.
Yeah, I wondered if it was just because we were just you and I.
Oh, because it was private? Maybe. All right, so maybe not. We'll have better instructions on it as things progress here, but this was a very late stage thing, but it does kind of work, and we're pretty excited about it, so we'll get it out to you as quickly as we can. Other than that, unless anyone has more questions, I think we're kind of there. I hope that, oh, Bob, go ahead.
When will, for example, I'm in here, when will these rooms be open for us to play with?
All right, so that's a good question. So Bob is asking, when will the rooms be open so that you guys can get in the rooms and experience them for yourselves? That question was asked yesterday. Mindy Thompson was here, and I'm supposed to get a list to Andy Martin of everyone who's using the rooms, and they're going to get your cards activated so that you can get in the buildings and get this stuff done. I reached out to Andy yesterday to find out how he needs the list, and we haven't corresponded back and forth yet. I'm hoping that at some point today we'll conquer that, and he'll have what he needs so that you all have access to that. And as I find these things out, some of these larger questions like that, I will send something out to that email list that you were invited to this on.
Next week would be great.
Yeah, like, because we're closing in on the beginning pretty fast here, right? I get it. So, and our apologies for the late delivery, but this was like kind of a ton. We did about the equivalent of what we would do for Life Cycle for 2 years over the winter break. So it was pretty significant.
Thank you for that.
We're just trying to get you what you need to work with. So, okay.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Typically, whenever I enter a classroom, I am undoing everything the professor before me did. When someone leaves the podium, will it go back to default settings, or am I gonna have to switch from laptop to, I'm sure everybody has that problem with that.
Okay, so question is from Linda Marshall. She's asking when she enters the room, what condition will the podia be in based on who is in there in front of her? And the answer to that question is our recommendation is that you always shut the podia down so that it's at that start page whenever anyone else walks in the room. That's the way the instructions work best. However, that being said, even if you are not going to use this technology, this is why we wanted you to see these things, because it is different enough that if somebody were to come in and left it in that streaming state and then walked out of the room and you hadn't had this training, you probably wouldn't necessarily know how to get back. So we wanted to make sure that everyone kind of understood what was going on.
Thank
Okay, I think that'll do it. I appreciate everyone coming and hope, I hope you embrace this technology. I think it will be good. And good luck in your semester.
Thank you.
I put 1 and 2, 18, 1 and 2, 17.
By all means, step up